This week on Rockstar Superhero. Today on the show, I talk with Nathan Biddles, the voice of the UK metalcore band InRetrospect. Nathan has to be one of the nicest humans I've ever met. For some reason, 95% of people who do the darkest, heaviest music in the world also seem to be the gentlest and sweetest natured. Nathan proves my theory with this conversation today. Unfortunately, Nathan had some internet issues at home, which led him to sitting in his car for the entirety of the interview. That means you can't really see him too well if you're watching this on video, but trust me, he was smiling the entire time. We really connected, he and I can only hope he continues to build an audience for this powerful musical unit. There must be something special in the water in Leeds, that's for sure. This is my interview with the pure-hearted Nathan Biddles, soon to be the name on the tongues of music lovers everywhere, on the Rockstar Superhero Podcast. What was the moment that you knew this was your path?
To be fair, I think it was when I got introduced to the Rolling Stones.
Wow.
Because originally I was always wanting to play guitar. And then I was fortunate to have a family member teach me. It was Jumping Jack Flash on guitar. Yeah, man, which really kind of set me on the path to thinking it's something to do with rock music. And then the more I learned on guitar, I think that progressively, or more, I listened to heavier music. And then it just kept getting heavier and heavier. And then I joined my first heavy metal band, which I think at that point was like, this is definitely something that I want to do. And then I always did backing vocals in the bands as well, which I did enjoy, but I never really thought that I wanted to be a frontman as such. And then sort of just before, saying that we're locked down, you forget what time it is, don't you? It would have been 2019. My last band split up, and the guys in Retrospect, we'd played with them before, and James, our guitarist, messaged me saying, have you ever thought about doing vocals or being a vocalist? I went, to be honest, not really, but we'll give it a go. So I went to a practice. I was dire, man. Like, I couldn't scream. It was just a case of trying to shout down a microphone as loud as you can, and then within the space of like 40 minutes I had no voice at all. But yeah, sort of from there, but all stemming from Jumping Jack Flash by the Rolling Stones.
That is such a crazy way to start, because my brain says, well, that means you're going to like traditional rock, right? Almost like a happy pop rock, right? Because that's what the Stones are. I mean, sure, they're a little subversive, but really only sexual subversiveness, right? They're not angry, they're not violent, right? There's nothing about them that would sort of put you in that direction. But here I am talking to this really super nice guy. How does that compute when it comes to metal, right? Because the outsider looks at a guy like you and they see your videos on YouTube. They hear your voice, on Spotify, and they say, that must be an angry man. He has something to scream at me. He wants me to share in his misery. How do you go from Rolling Stones to InRetrospect?
So yeah, it's a weird one. I get the question all the time because lyrically it's always very, very dark. Yeah. The guys in the band say it as well. It's like, you must be having a really, really hard time, like, because it is so dark. And to be fair, as a person, I don't think, I'm sort of in a bad place. Like, I write about being in bad places, which I think everyone's been at some point, which they do come into play. But again, as weird as it sounds, like, the inspirations I take from writing isn't necessarily other bands as such.
Right.
So there was a philosopher who I read a lot on called Atticus, who the way he wrote things and the way he said things was very, very dark, but almost had like a cover over the top of it, and you've really got to like read it a few times just to realize how dark these things can be, which I absolutely loved. Like I say, the point where I discovered Atticus wasn't a point where I was in a dark place. I just appreciated, even though it was dark, how beautifully written it really was. And then I've always been a fan of Tim Burton movies.
Excellent.
So Tim Burton movies are just really, really, really twisted. So trying to incorporate like a philosopher and Tim Burton was just something completely like out of the blue and something completely different. So even though the songs are very, very, very dark, and that some of them are about sort of, previous experiences and being in that place, a lot of it does stem from Tim Burton and Atticus the philosopher.
That's really interesting, because as you were speaking just now, Nathan, my brain was telling me, okay, here's a guy who is actually really sweet-natured, and he's curious about, so to speak, the dark side, right? He's curious why people exist over there, because he doesn't really exist there. And yet you seem to have an understanding of what it's like on the other side. And so you can write these songs, and you can behave in a certain way to sort of connect to an audience that needs to know they're not alone. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think, when I was younger, I got, involved a lot with sort of things you shouldn't really get involved with as such. And then it was a case of you meet a lot of people and you find out a hell of a lot of stories. So like at that point, like my friendship group was always quite, older people. And then you find out about their past. And then even though you can't really relate yourself to the things they've done or they've been through, you kind of can mentally as such. And because you're in that environment and sort of doing that and what that environment's doing, you do kind of connect with it, which again, it's not something that we're pleased about or I'm pleased about, but I can use it, to what we're doing now. And like, I say it every time, I'm not in a bad, I'm in a good place. But I do like the idea of writing about things that aren't necessarily in good places.
Yeah. I understand that. It was something I think I read on, I don't want to say Bandcamp, but I read it in an interview that you had before, and I wrote it down because I couldn't remember the quote, but I wrote, you said, "We create a sonic balance of harmonious noise focused on reflection, acknowledgement, and ownership of the external anguish that we as a species impose so thoughtlessly on the world around us."
Yeah, the thing is, I think like with our type of genre specifically, you've really got a face to make a statement. I've gone dark. Excuse me for a second.
It's okay.
To really make a statement, which I think we really need to thrive upon doing it. I think when it comes to mainstream music, there's so many people out there who, and granted, I've been in the same position and done it myself before, where you pick a part and you go straight to sort of saying how bad the song is or how badly wrote it is or how crappy sounds or, anything like that. Whereas with this genre, you can kind of do whatever the hell you want and not get judged for it.
Yeah.
Which if it's mainstream, you get judged for everything you do. So we should be using, this genre to really make a statement and really grab the listeners to think, well, actually, there are people out there who are suffering with this or are having problems with this, and it really, really opens your mind to everything that's going on. People can be so blinded, if they've had a really good upbringing, which is brilliant, really good upbringing, but you don't see the darker side of life, which I think, you really need to grab to understand. And like I said, that's what we're trying to do. I think progressively, like, as we're writing more and more things, the actual lyrics itself become, a lot smarter in a sense, because writing lyrics for this band, like the first time I've done it, it's not really something I've done before. So you progress the more and more you do it, and then you really start to realize, well, damn, this is dark, and this is really gonna grab someone and get them to listen.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. You said something or you hinted at something a second ago that I'd like to touch on, if it's okay.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I was thinking about the darkness in people's lives and how some people seemingly grow up exceedingly happy, right? There's this sort of, they look like they come from a very pure family, right? They're not struggling with finances. Their family has direction. They love or seemingly love what they do. They're really good in school. But these are always the kids that grow up to have significant issues in life as adults because they've actually put on a false face the entire time, right? They've been wearing a facade because it's been informed by their family, this expectation of presentation, right?
Yeah.
And I'm curious because I grew up in what I would call an idealized family. And it wasn't until I was 45 years old did I finally figure out where my own darkness came from. And it wasn't, I'm not blaming my parents. It was just that, I really wasn't parented in a way that is traditional, right? So I was seeking, I had daddy issues. I did. I still do. I'm 55 years old, man, and I have daddy issues. So I'm curious, if I may be so bold, do you see yourself as being a good, kind, developed man, but you've come from some difficulty and you're still finding your way through?
So I'm quite similar in the fact that I do think I grew up in a good family. Like, I think I was lucky enough to have that privilege of growing up in a good. I'm not saying we were rich and
of course
this and that. We had parents had stable jobs and we had a nice house and whatnot. But not everyone gets that. And again, I don't want to say it's an ideal family because everyone comes from a different background. But I just got involved with the wrong things at a stupid age. So
gotcha.
I wouldn't say it like a rebellious teenager thing, but it's just a case of essentially it was drugs. Like, I got involved a hell of a lot with drugs when I was younger, and then you meet the wrong group of people.
Yeah.
And no matter how good your family is at that point, because you're still young and still learning, you don't listen to what they say.
Right.
You go straight for, no, these are the people I'm hanging around with. This is what I'm doing. And then you stick to it. I'm, in a sense, like, I've got to look at it that I'm lucky enough to say it happened when I was younger. I'm past it. And I can now look back and say, look, this is not right. This wasn't right. But I'm lucky enough to do it. I've done that at a young age, whereas a lot of people aren't lucky enough to do something.
You survived it.
Like that at a young age. Yeah. And I think that if you make the mistakes younger in life, you've kind of got an upper step later on in life because you know what you've done wrong and what not to do as such. But a lot of people don't get that. And like I say, everyone has different backgrounds from where they're from. But, just because you've got, the ideal family doesn't mean you're not going to hit a dark spot at some point in your life. Like that, it doesn't work like that. You could have all the money in the world and, be brought up with the nicest cars, the nicest house, everything you wanted, but it doesn't mean you're not going to hit a dark point. It can be anything. Like I say, in my instance, I just got dragged into the wrong things with the wrong people, and that could have happened to anyone.
Yeah. Yeah, it's absolutely true. And what's interesting too about any addiction, and I struggle with, I'm post addiction as well, is dealing with the idea of, well, you surround yourself with people that are worse off than you, so you can at least feel better about yourself in those situations. Yeah. And what you're not realizing is those people are actually bringing you down farther, right? Because they don't want to be the bottom of the heap. They actually want to be surrounded by people that make them feel better about themselves. So drug addicts, as an example, will push more drugs on their friends because they want them to be higher. They want to be in control. Yeah. It's a really strange, awful cycle. It's very, I don't want to be religious about it, but it's very almost demonic, right? It just feels like there's something on your shoulder that's praying and just going like, ha, ha, ha. I mean, I know that sounds silly, but it does feel like that.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. And like I say, sometimes, the people you're in it with, like, I wouldn't necessarily say, the full group that I joined were already, all already in that position. Like, there were some of us that weren't in that position at all.
Yeah.
when we joined it. But like you say, you met the one, you meet the one wrong person or bring in the wrong friend, and then suddenly that group of six with one wrong friend becomes a group of six wrong friends, which it's just so easy. But yeah, it's so I can relate to people who have been through that. And some of the new track, well, one of the new tracks that are coming out is pretty much based all around that. But again, that's in a couple of months anyway. But again, it means a lot, and that's all I can really say on that one.
No, it's fine. I know I'm pressing a bit. I really like to get to know the person versus the artist or the celebrity because as you increase in stature in the public eye, a lot of people are never going to know the real Nathan, and I'm trying to get under the skin, so to speak. I hope that's okay.
Yeah, of course it is, man. Of course it is. Yeah.
Were you talking about Open Eyes by any chance?
To be fair, it was. I probably shouldn't have mentioned it. It was one that's will be coming out after Open Eyes.
Okay.
But Open Eyes. To be fair, Open Eyes was based on someone I used to know, so it was kind of queer from the same place.
Gotcha.
Someone who basically would blame all their self-occurred problems on everyone else. It was never them to blame. It was always the people around them. They dragged you into it. They did this, they did that. And that's what it's about. It's quite a strong one, to be fair. The lyrics in it are that is a pretty dark song.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know we're here to talk about that today, but there are some other things I was hoping to get to. But let me ask you this, since we're on this, I haven't heard the song yet because it hasn't been released. It's coming out, I think, on the 24th? Is that correct?
24th, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay. So all that being said, I haven't heard the piece yet, but I assume based on what you're talking about here that did you come to grips with this person? Meaning, did you have a conversation and say, I see what you're doing, and I don't know. I don't know how I can approach this without understanding the piece of the song, but my brain says, but yes, this is a broken person, right? Because we all sort of like to think we're better than others. I mean, we do at times, not all the time, but there are moments we like to be right. It's the human experience. That's why all this stupid stuff happening with COVID right now. Everybody wants to be right. And maybe it would be easier if we just said, I understand that person wants to be right. They're not, but I'm also not 100% right. And maybe we can somehow come together in agreement that let's just try to honor each other, right? I'm not trying to tell you what to do, of course, and this is not in deference to that song, but I hear these kinds of ideas and my brain says, I struggle with this all the time. I want to be around great people, but I probably push people away because I'm so busy being a narcissistic dickhead, where maybe I could just say, okay, Bill, I see where you're going with this. Let's talk about this because you're not you're not 100% on point, Yeah,
it was a case of like everything they do that created something bad or created a bad happening, me and a couple of other people will be blamed for. And then you kind of start to think, oh, well, this is my fault that it's happening to them. This is my doing that's happening in their life. But then it was kind of a case of the more you thought about it and the more they did it, you thought, I'm not doing this to you. This is nothing I'm doing to you. This is all you, and you're blaming it on us. And it's kind of like, I wouldn't say we had a conversation, but it was more of quite a big argument over the facts. And a couple of things referenced in that song was a couple of things referenced in the argument that I remember clear as day. But yeah, it was more a case on trying to get them to realize that they are not the only ones struggling, which again, it was what a reference from the song, but they're not the only ones struggling, and they need to realize that it's always, they're the center of it. It's always them in the worst position when it's not always the case.
Yeah. Well, some people can't help but be tornadoes, and in order to destroy whatever they're around, they gaslight people, right? They've been trained up incorrectly. They haven't been raised well. and they're in desperate need of love. But yeah, it's also good to get away from those people and let somebody else love them. I think it's my safe response to that.
No, you're right.
Look, we'll get off of this, but I thank you for being so open about that.
It's okay, man.
So are you actually from Leeds?
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm not, obviously I'm from America. You know, I know a little bit about the layout, the geography of the UK. But I've noticed that everything north of London, whether it's central or actually northern, is always kind of looked down upon from the Southerners, from the Londoners, so to speak. At least online, it seems to be this way. Oh, he's from Manchester. Oh, he's from Liverpool. You see what I'm saying? All these sort of northern towns, these factory towns. I don't know anything about Leeds outside of I've met a few bands from there. So I'm curious, what's the atmosphere around the countryside like, and did it inform you as an artist?
To be honest, not really. I think there's always been that thing between Northerners and Southerners. Like, I know a lot of Southerners, and this is nothing against them because I love them to pieces. But there is always some sort of rivalry there. Like, the ones down south and this and that, and it's always been there. But I couldn't really tell you why, as such. I don't know myself, if I'm honest. No idea.
Maybe it has something to do with the crown from hundreds of years ago when they were dominating the northern parts of the country. There was this hatred for the Southerners because that's where the king or the queen lived.
Possibly, possibly.
Yeah,
but it's
crazy.
It's always escaped me. Yeah, it's always escaped me. I don't think I've met a Southerner that I don't like yet, which is probably a wrong thing to say as a Northerner. But yeah.
No, that's great. Let's talk a little bit about songwriting, if that's cool.
Yeah, of course, man.
InRetrospect has been around for a bit. You joined not that long ago. What's the songwriting process like for you guys? Do you do it over the web and exchange files? I mean, especially with, again, the COVID issue being so common. How is what's the songwriting process like with your band? Maybe just keep it simple.
So we felt pretty lucky with the whole COVID situation because the way we do write didn't really affect or wasn't really affected by the COVID situation. When I joined the band, it was always a case of, because some of the lads live in Grimsby, which is about an hour and a half away from Leeds, and obviously a couple of us are in Leeds, it always stems from Google Drive. We use Google Drive to its extent, man. Like, my phone gets filled up with files from Google Drive. It's insane. So it'll always be a case of James or Jerome, the guitarist, will either write a song with some MIDI drums and they'll stick it in the drive. We'll then have Gmo, our drummer, jump onto it and stick his drums over it. Toby will put his bass on, and then I'll try to stick some vocals to it. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that's how the song's going to sound. We'll just get a basis for it, and then essentially guitars might change, and then Gmo will change his drums again. The lyrics will change, but it's all stemmed from, we all record it at home, stick it in a drive, and then when we meet up for practice, when we do, it's just a case of, look, these are the ones we've got, let's go through them. But we scrapped so many songs, like I think every band will, or every band would. So, we might write 10 songs and use 4 of them. It just depends. Like, something that sounds amazing the first time round sounds absolutely horrible the second time round. And I'm a devil for it, because every time they write a song, I'm like, yo, this is sick. Like, this is something we need to do. And then Jerome will put his drums on. It's like, yo, like, this is the one. And then they'll write another one. I'm like, that one's shit. Let's do the new one. And it's constant. And then they must say to me so many times, like, if it was up to you, we'd have one song. Which is
yeah. Well, but that's true of artists in general. I mean, obviously there are a few that don't fall in that trap, but artists love to be precious about their work, right? And we're always turned on by the latest, sexiest thing. You know what I mean? I mean, us getting together today, for example, we're here to talk about Open Eyes, and yet you're already telling me about the next thing, right? It's funny how we can't help it because we're excited. But if I could just ask one simple question, I mean, are you satisfied with the work you've done so far with In Retrospect?
So I won't lie, and I don't know if anyone else has been in this position, but the songs that we've released so far were supposed to be part of an EP. Mm-hmm. Now, these songs were recorded early last year on the basis that, yeah, we're going to release them as an EP. And then, in an ideal world, we'd have been so many songs down the line by now. And then when COVID hit, like everyone had to do, we had to change up, how we were going to do this. Now, we obviously at that point, you didn't know how long it was going to last, you didn't know if you're going to be in there in lockdown for a year, for a couple of months. You just didn't know. So we kind of had a few long chats and just said, look, rather than doing it as an EP, let's use it single by single, because then at least we've still got content to push throughout, with how long we're in lockdown. Luckily, it's taken us through until the end of lockdown, which I think we've been very, very fortunate in that. I would put it down to luck as well. Like I say, we had them bagged before everything happened. Not every band's been in that situation, and it's been hard for a hell of a lot of bands. Yeah. Like I say, I do think we're very fortunate in that way. But yeah, so they were all part of an EP, which, like I say, we've had to release going on. But because we were releasing them and not playing them live, I was falling out of love very, very quickly with what we were releasing. And numerous times it was like, I was thinking that it isn't good enough. Like, we need to be doing something better. And because you sat on these songs for so long, and you're writing new songs constantly, you're constantly progressing, every one of you, with the instrument and the vocals. And what you released before sounds nowhere near as good as what you're getting ready. And it's that I started to lose a lot of interest in what we've done. And I'd openly admit to that, and I don't think I'd be the only one who would. But then lockdown sort of stopped in the UK and gigs started to happen again. And very, very quickly, I've fallen back in love with everything we've released in the past year and a bit. You just getting that live atmosphere again and being able to play them live just gives you such a boost with it. And like I say, I think if we'd have gone any longer without playing them, I would have probably ripped my fucking hair out. And, I said, look, we're just going to have to release the new stuff because, we're ready. But, we've really fallen back in love with it, which is brilliant. And I can't speak for the other lads because I think the other lads have loved it all the way through. I just think it's been more like, because I haven't really done vocals before, the screaming at the start was very, very uncontrolled, pushed, just trying to scream the life out of it. Whereas because I've kind of used COVID and lockdown to really try and push myself to get how to really do it. And now we're kind of doing the new demos and recording, and it sounds so much better. Especially with the vocals, because you do always pick up on your own instrument. Like, guitarists, they'll always listen out for the guitars. I could have done that better, or I should have done that better. I can do this better now. It's the same with vocals. Like, because it's so much better than what it was, I was like, we need to get the new stuff out. But honestly, since we started playing live again, I really have fallen back in love with them, which is brilliant.
Yeah. Well, COVID has been the great equalizer in all the ways, but what I've found over and over again is it's released somebody like you. It's actually forced you to slow down, to be grateful for the moment, but to develop, right? You're correct that, if you release like In Violence or the new single Open Eyes or the things that are coming out, you've done those. You did them a long time ago. So yeah, they're not as fresh to you, but we haven't heard them, man.
And that's exactly what our guitarist said to me every single time. Like, when we were releasing it, I was like, I am excited, but I'm not as excited as I should be. He's like, look, you listen to these tracks day in, day out for God knows how long, but the person at the other end of that screen hasn't listened to this yet. Yeah. He was saying that all the time. Yeah. Which I should have listened to him, to be fair.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, when your management reached out to me, I heard In Violence And that was the first thing I'd heard from In Retrospect. I mean, it's just like anything. There's 1,000, there's 1,000,000 bands, and they're all out there and they're doing their self-promotion online. So unless you have a great promo or management company like you guys do, you're never going to hear half of these guys. But even guys like you who have great sound and great songs and great management and great promotion and all these things, right? There's just so many. So COVID beautifully has slowed us down. It's allowed In Retrospect, it's allowed Nathan to percolate and to become like a great cup of coffee. I know that sounds so cheesy, but it's true, because when I hear Open Eyes or the next song, I mean, if it's anything like In Violence, dude, we're in for a real treat, and I think it's going to nail us in the balls.
Hell yeah, man. Yeah, it's to be fair, it is pretty powerful, the next song. Like, it is just straight in your face, constantly in your face, which it is one of my favorites, to be fair. In Violence probably, is my favorite.
It's so
if
good.
I had to pick one, it would be In Violence from the songs that we've been releasing. But yeah, Open Eyes, it's a pretty heavy hitter, man.
Yeah. So all that being said, and you've given us quite a taste of what we can expect. How soon then can we expect either the EP combining all of these singles, or are you just going to put out a full release in the next 6 to 10 months and include these pieces on it?
I don't really know how much I can say.
Gotcha.
So I better tread water very, very carefully here, because if our manager listens to this and I'm saying something I should not, then yeah, man, I'm gonna have a problem. We've been working behind the scenes very, very hard. So with these songs already been recorded, we've had a lot of time to really sit down and plan the next moves on what we're going to do. So we only recently picked up this management company who, to be fair, have been absolutely, bob on with us. We couldn't really ask for better management, and I know we'd appreciate that. And, we've met him once. And honestly, he was the nicest bloke we could ask to work with. He gives you so much, so every day, and he's constantly, right, we're doing this, we need to do this, we need to do this, and he keeps us all in line, to be fair, because we're terrible for arguing between us.
Yeah.
We love each other to pieces, but we just argue constantly. If everyone agrees on one thing, then you'd be popping the champagne, you would be, but we never agree on anything. So he'd really kept us in line on doing everything we need to do. So while these songs have been coming out, we've been spending a hell of a lot of time with branding, with just everything possible to do with how we're going to promote the next big thing. And so Open Eyes coming out the 24th, and then after that, it's something big, but I can't really say much.
It's all good. It's all good. I'll beg James to tell me. So are you doing prep for then any upcoming touring around the EU? Is it just the UK? I mean, I had read you're going to be doing the Burn It Down festival.
Yeah, so we played that in Torquay, which was... Oh,
you already played it?
Yeah, it was not the weekend just gone, the weekend before.
Okay, I missed. Okay, sorry.
That's all right. That was insane. That some of the bands that were playing that we could say we were next to was pretty surreal. We've all wanted to see Hacktivists for years.
Yeah. To
see them live, and then to stand backstage with them and then chill out in a smoking area with them was kind of a bit surreal. I remember Jay coming up, and I was just like, "Yo, that's Jay from Hacktivist." That right there, that's Jay from Hacktivist.
That's so cool. Yeah, you'll get used to it, Nathan. It's you're going to be around a lot of people. I mean, I've been doing this 6 years, and I've talked to everybody, right, from the biggest names to the newest upcoming guys, and I'm never not nervous and never not excited. Right?
Yeah. Man.
It's. I mean, I was nervous talking to you today simply because you're something real. I say this every time. I only have people on the show I really enjoy. I love what you guys are creating and doing.
Thank you.
And about 5 minutes before I start recording with anybody, I get dry mouth. That's why I'm sitting here sipping on this drink, because it's like I don't know. It just cannot turn that part of myself off. So I think you'll probably always be looking at people and saying, wow, like, I can't believe I'm standing next to, name a famous person, right? So it's an amazing thing.
Yeah, I think, we always said, like, we're not going to be the band who thinks they're higher than everyone else. Like, the more we progress, I think it's just going to get more exciting. I really do want to get to a point in a couple of years' time where we can look at bands that, are our size currently, and we can give them guidance on, where to go. Like, everyone does the same thing when they're a small band. They'll go play with a big band. They'll be like, look, how do you get to this point? What are you doing? I'd love to be in that position to say, look, this is what we've done. This is how we've done it. And we're always going to be ridiculously open with it. We've always said that we're going to try to do everything we can to, if we can get to that position ourselves, which I really hope we can, and with the management we've got behind us, I think we've got a hell of a strong chance. We can then be open and get so many more people to that position. And again, I don't care whether we're the biggest band in the world or we're the smallest band in the world. Meeting someone you've listened to like for God knows how many years is exciting, man.
Yeah, it is, especially when you find out that they want to do some sort of collaboration with you. The nice part about being a vocalist is you get asked to be on things drummers or guitars or bass players they don't typically get, right? You get to sit in and be the guy who brings the brutal voice to something down the road. You watch, it's going to happen.
I hope so. It is something I would like to do. I would like to get to a point where someone turns around and goes, can we have you on a track? I'd be like, hell yeah.
Yeah. Do you know the guys in Caskets?
No, but they are from Leeds. I've only met the guys once, and that was at the Heavy Music Awards that we went to a couple of weeks ago. But from just being there, the guys were ace. Like, they were all completely sound. I've seen him live a couple of times, and his voice live is just something else. Like, he is one of an inspiration, I'd say. Like, I'd love to get my voice like that, because with the stuff we've been recording recently is, takes a lot of inspiration from the way he does his vocals and the way, the guy in Holding Absence does his vocals, and, them two bands. And again, I know I pick out the vocalist, but, being a vocalist, that's what you listen to. They're just fucking incredible.
Yeah. Matt's voice is one of the best. It's really a special thing. But, but here's the thing, Nathan, and I want to say this to you because, well, I can feel it in my core about you too. There is something really unique and special about you. And so when people say, like, oh, in retrospect, they're just doing another sort of heavy, brutal metalcore thing. I've heard it before. It's not true. And it's not true because you're a conglomerate of unique individuals, and your voice is spectacular. It's just not Matt's. But Matt's voice isn't yours, Nathan. And I guarantee you, those are the kind of guys that you, I'm sure, will eventually connect with. And yeah, they can do something that's really melodic and synth wavy, right? But then, Matt doesn't do what you do. So maybe that's a perfect example of a potential collaboration down the road. You're from the same freaking town.
If Matt Flood turned around to me and said, yo, do you want to come on a Casket song? I'd probably cry.
Well, I'll tell him. Okay. We're friends. He and I. We're friends. Real.
That'd be insane.
Yeah, I'll tell him. I'll go on Instagram today and send him a note and say, hey.
Tell him I'm waiting for the message. Yo, Matt, he's waiting for the message. Message him now.
Oh, no, that's fantastic. Well, before I let you go, how did you connect with Year the Rat? How did that relationship come together? Do you mind sharing?
Yeah, so we're not actually on Year of the Rat. So that's
I thought you were.
No, sorry, but no. We're kind of working in conjunction with Saviour management.
Okay.
So
James
kind of So when we reached out to James, I think it was something that we all wanted to do. We've had previous management, but I don't. It wasn't quite what we were hoping for as such. So we had quite a few long discussions to say, look, if we really want to take it to the next level, we need to get someone on board who's really going to get us there. So me and the guitarist James, we were going through so many different companies that we'd looked at that look very, very promising. But from being in previous bands before and speaking to the likes of, Lotus Eater and Parting Gift and whatnot, Saviour was the one. And I don't think we were going to settle for anything less at this point. It was a case of, look, if we want it, then let's, fucking do it. Let's go for it. And we had a chat with James at Saviour.
Yeah.
And it was quite a long chat, to be fair. And we just went through everything. And I think we clicked pretty quick. I think he understood what we were going for and what we wanted to do. And, just everything straight off the bat, he was saying, oh, we could do this, we could do this. And everything was just gelling so quick. And we said, look, if you'd have us, then, we'd love to give it a go. Now, I don't think we were quite at the point where we could be matching the bands that are already on Saviour. The bands that are on Saviour at the moment are quite well established and doing pretty well. So James, bless him, he said to us that, let's work from the bottom. Let's start from the bottom and let's build it up and build it up and build it up. And then hopefully, fingers crossed, if he's listening to this later down the line, we can get slapped on that Saviour page. No hints or anything, but get slapped on that Saviour page. And then we can build it from there. But like I say, he's been an absolute godsend, man. I know I'm blowing smoke up his ass like hell, but he really has. It's every day. It's just constant. Right, we need to do this. We need to do this. Can you do this? And it's like, man, the guy's a god.
Yeah. I mean, I would like to work for Saviour. I'll be flat out honest with you. James is really special. There's something about that entire team, and there's something about the feel of those people and that company and the way they interact. It's very humbling because they're so forthright and honest, and they're kind, but they're meticulous. They have killer follow-up, and I feel like I'm blowing smoke right now, but they're very special. So you're in good hands.
I couldn't say a bad word about them, to be fair. Like I said, they've been ridiculously good to us. And like I say, he's always there when you need him. Like, I know essentially they don't work 24/7, but if you need him, he's there. Even like when we're at gigs, if we played a gig with Blood Youth on Thursday, which was, again, that was pretty insane because Blood Youth are a band that we followed for ages. And then getting sober on the same bill was just kind of, again, a bit surreal. And like, it was 8-9 o'clock at night, and he was still messaging saying, "You guys all right? Anything you need, just let me know." And it's that sort of thing that really, it stands out from everybody else. Which again, like I say, we couldn't have asked for someone better. So
well, I will tell you. I mean, I mean, this is very exciting for me because I know you're on the cusp of something amazing, and like I said, what I've heard, I really, really enjoy. I can't wait to hear the next stuff. Obviously, I'm hoping to get on the sweetheart list somehow. but I can't wait to hear the new stuff. I can't wait to see what you guys do. I love being at the ground floor of something really special. And you are unique. You're not just another metalcore band. You really are unique, and you're kind, and that means a lot to me, Nathan. I really want you to know that. So please keep being who you're being. I would like to ask you one final question before I let you go. What would it take for you to believe that you've had a successful career? That the band is worthy of being remembered, that you're worthy of being remembered?
That is a very, very good question. I think a lot of people would say, like, playing with that band that you always listened to when you were younger and whatnot. But I think if we got to that stage, all we want to do is just hit the next stage. We'll be like, what is the next stage? So if I'm honest, I think it'd just be a case of saying, I've left my job. I've got enough money to pay the rent, to do what I need to do, but my life is music. Like, if we could get to that point, then I think that's the point where I'd say I think we've done a hell of a good job.
Oh man. Well, don't let anything get in the way of yourself, my friend. Don't let people tell you to stop. Don't let fear hamper you. Guard yourself, guard your heart, guard your soul. Keep fighting, keep writing the great stuff, and perform your butt off. And people they can't help but fall in love with it because it's pure.
No, thanks so much, man. I think the problem we're going to have, though, is everyone we work with, who want to tech with us, sort of thing. Like, everyone we work with is, like, on our level, whether it's, like, photographers we work with or, you know, whether... And it's gone off, man. Sorry about this.
That's all right.
Yeah, we just want to take everyone with us.
Yeah.
Like, we'd love to take... if we could have a bus that fits every person we've worked with on and take on tour or something like that, that would be fucking insane.
Yeah. Well, but the fact that they're doing that proves my point.
Yeah, man.
Right?
Yeah, man, definitely.
So I hope this conversation, because I mean, my audience is going to love it because they're going to love hearing me talk to somebody like you who's so pure. But I hope this conversation gives you the confidence that you're on the right path, that you're doing the right path, that you're on the right path and doing the right thing. And you're in the pursuit of your purpose, because your purpose is affecting the lives and the spirits of so many people, and it's a beautiful thing. So keep up the battle, brother.
Oh, thanks so much, man. Hey, and it means a hell of a lot hearing it from other people. So yeah, thank you so much. Your clever thing is pulling me.